All right, well, this is Aaron Squire coming to you guys this week again. We got episode 62. We were off last week because I had to go to a wedding. You know, sometimes people are getting married, and we actually had a thing about that where they said, you know, how are we all going to get together now because we got no more people getting married. So it's the last one, but that's what's going on there. Tonight on Deck Building with the Squire, we're going to be talking about some tournament news, some Hex news that I need to catch up on because I missed last week. We're going to do a deck doctor tonight, and so we've got two options there. We can either do a PVE Dwarf aggro, or I had a request to do a PVE Orc aggro deck, and then we're of course going to close out the episode and get you guys some pretty cool prizes at the end. So Golden Saucer guy, does that sound pretty good to you? Are you ready to hit it up and start up the episode and go to work here at the end of our week?
I had enough work today. This is the fun part of the day. Let's do it.
I know, right? I know. So, so real quick, let's just, you know, like, what's been going on recently? What you been doing this week?
Other than work and maybe kind of testing the deck I'm using coming up soon, and that's it. I haven't done a whole lot. Catch up on TV shows.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I actually just started watching an anime called Hunter x Hunter, and I've actually was watching. I just did like a marathon of like 6 episodes before I started writing show notes. I was like, oh no, I need to start writing show notes. I also got the Humble Bundle this week, which is Might and Magic Bundle, and I had no idea that there's actually a Might and Magic card game. It's kind of lane-based card game, and it has like kind of the same sort of mechanic as Hearthstone, where you kind of get resources every turn, but you have to decide like, what do they go into my strength pool so I can make troops with strength, or do they go in my magic pool so I can play magic troops, or I don't know, some other pool like abilities or something. So kind of an interesting system. I play with it for an entire 20 minutes because that's what I had to do to get through, to get my free stuff that I paid for. Free stuff that you paid for. Free stuff with the Kickstarter thing, or with the, I'm sorry, not Kickstarter, but with the Humble Bundle that there was, but I think it's still going on. So yeah, if you're interested in Might and Magic stuff at all, I definitely encourage you to get over there and see that, try that bundle out before it's gone. But that's pretty much been my week. I've also started playing a game called Neuron Ball, which is like a football game for robots.
Yeah,
so
it's a fun game. I like it quite a bit. So you're talking about the other card games on there. I've recommended people before, but Cold Step Saga on the 360 is
okay.
It's a bunch of years old. Fantastic card game, board game combo.
Card game, board game combo.
Yeah, it's like kind of reminds me of Hex meets Monopoly. It's pretty.
So
good.
kind of like Mario Party then, kind of.
Yeah, like you're going around the board. When you land in a spot, there's a fight that goes on between cards you have, and
my cards are always fighting. I have to like keep them in separate boxes. They start fighting with each other.
Right. It's a cool game. People should check it out. It's a little old now. You probably pick it up pretty cheap.
Okay, so I think that's a good segue into some of the news for tomorrow. So, top 64 players from this season are going to be playing in the Shards of Fate tournament tomorrow on May 9th. And Golden Saucer Guy looked this up. It's going to be 0800 for you military types, Pacific Daylight Time, or as I like to call it, Cryptozoic Time, because that's their, you know, time standard. So
game's at 8 and tournament officially kicks off at 9 Pacific time.
So Golden Saucer Guy was the first loser. He was number 65, but somebody else backed out, so he's actually going to be making it right into the tournament. So very lucky for him. We're actually going to do some practicing later tonight. So my seasonal standing stepped up from 71 to 70 this season with that, I guess. So, you know, still I can't really complain too much. I had a lot of bad hands, but there were a lot of games that this season I look back at and I was like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have won that, and it was, you know, definitely some luck for me as well. I just needed to actually play the last tournament and I probably would have had a better chance. But there's always next season, and there are a lot of other players that are also excellent players that didn't make the top 64, so I really shouldn't be too disappointed if I'm trying to measure up a lot of different things.
Backing in is not how I wanted to enter the tournament, but you know, whatever. I ended up going like 5-0 or 6-0 in like all the events that I played in, but those last 2 or 3 games, and you're facing off against, you know, the other 10, 12 people who are also in that range of X1, XO. you know, it was brutal competition. I mean, I faced off against Kind Mime twice for my first losses in an event. And of course now he's in my pod. He's in first place. So I mean, losing to the guy who takes first, that's not quite so
Right,
bad.
because that's
But,
going to put you up against him possibly in the first round, right?
right. I
Because
will
they
play
always.
everybody in my pod. So I'm playing the first place person, which is Kind Mime, 32nd and 33rd place.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But hey, every tournament's a fresh start. So you know, everyone comes in 0-0. We're doing it all the way.
Yep. Yeah, let's see what's going to happen. So, any predictions for this tournament? I mean, or who would you like to see make it all the way through? I'm not. We should probably look to see who's actually in it.
Well,
For-
I'd like that golden saucer guy for the
I
last
do-
first to last. Outside of that, he's a good one though. I think he's a real winner. Outside of that, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just hoping I don't go O and X or whatever, O and 4. That's all.
Yeah, you want to make a good showing for the
I
day.
wanna get at least a
So,
win.
yeah, Kind Mime's in your pod, and he's actually the #1 for points
Yeah,
this season.
Yeah.
Serious,
We
he's
got
he's he's a very good chance he'll be in the finals. I could see him making the finals. Seiju, another one. Hexed Havoc's another favorite that people know. Crone.
Yeah,
Xantosh has actually done some pretty good things with
Yeah,
it. I
yeah.
think he's running Mono Blood.
There's a couple of people in there that I had some losses to during the regular events.
Right.
There's a few people.
What do you?
I've lost to Hex Havoc when I was XO. I've lost to Kind Mime twice when I was XO. What was it? There's another guy in there, Dan something. I lost to him when I was XO. He's in there as well.
Meet the Future, of course, is going to be in there. I mean, money is that he's basically playing some sort of Sapphire Ruby.
Evil Dan's. That's the one I lost to.
Yeah,
So-
he's going to be playing. He's going to be playing the basically the boogeyman of the format, or not really the boogeyman, but basically the dominant deck of the format, which is the most hated. Now I'm forgetting what it's called all of a sudden. The one with Cerulean Mirror Knights and this is really bad.
You
But
want a staff or what?
no, he's running this Sapphire Ruby Gore Feast deck. Ugh, oh my gosh, holy cow, that's really bad. But yeah, money's on the table that he's running Gore Feast tomorrow. I'd be very surprised if he decided not to run a deck with Gore Feast in it.
Yeah, I think my prediction is I think we're going to see a lot of clean, smooth running aggro. I don't think people are going to jump into this playing anything new and exciting or strange. They're going to stick to what they know. So we're going to see a lot of mono blood.
Yeah, Feyrock, you'll be out there too, so hopefully I hope to see you do well too, because you're another one of my favorites. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's people in there I like Deck of Many Things is always fun to see what he comes up with. Like I said, Evil Dance. I'd like to beat Evil Dance.
Peace Tinker,
One
also
tournament.
really good. Mostly these are people that I know because I've played against them a lot in different
Right.
tournaments.
Like, I guess if I had to pick someone, I'd like to see Cyrus do well. I mean, I'm, friend of his, whatever. I think he has.
I like to see Guerre make it into the top 8, even though he usually comes in with something crazy. You never know what Guerre's going to play. He's one of those. That's kind of the same thing as like Crone or maybe it's Havoc. Havoc always comes with a different deck. That's what it is. But
Right.
I don't
Yeah,
think
so-
this is the time to like start trying to experiment. But you never
Right.
know.
I don't want to lose to Hexed Havoc. How about that? There you go. If I'd have to top 32 or top 16, whatever, to even play him. Top 16, right? I don't know. Either way, I have to top out to play him, and
Hey,
not really interested in losing to him again.
welcome
We
to
had
the
a couple
channel,
good close
Theorycrafter.
games in the last few tournaments. We had not quite a mirror match. We had a real close one when we were running the Enchantress, whatever, and we had good games. I just don't want to lose to them. Not again.
Yeah, this is our weekly show that we do every week to talk about different Hex news and then do a deck doctor. So we're just talking about news right now. So the only other thing I want to just highlight is the prize. For first prize, you get a flight to Gen Con, $500, 36 set 2 packs and 20 set 1 packs. $500 should be about enough. Should be plenty of money if you needed to get lodging at Gen Con. I definitely encourage you to get out. It's a great time to go out there. I encourage people to get out there anyways. I mean, it's like Nerdvana for me. I mean, it's for people that really enjoy games and playing games and getting out there and checking out to see what kind of new stuff there is and just hang out with people. I think that this is a great vacation stop for people that are that kind of bend. It's definitely something I'm looking forward to when my kids get a little bit older, bringing them out there as well. So
every year I say, oh, I'm doing it next year. I mean,
you should do it this year. We should do it together.
I can't.
That sounded dirty.
I have another event this year. I'm going to be going to an event called Replay FX here in the Pittsburgh area. They're hosting the Pinball World Championships. They're going to have like 500 pinball machines, 400 classic arcade machines, 500 consoles, $110,000 prize payout for tournament stuff. It's going to be nuts. So unfortunately I'm taking the financially sound route and going there.
He's being conservative right now, but maybe one day he'll be in one of those companies and they'll just be like, you know what, you're going to Gen Con, and be like, all right guys, you got me.
Yeah, actually I do work for an organization that does send me places to other conventions, so I've been pushing like, hey guys, you guys
send me
for this event. So all right, what do we have next?
So next we've got the Hex update. Now let's all just pretend that we haven't seen this Hex update. If you've already seen it, we're going to talk about it anyways because we have to. It is still a news item. You may not have seen it. So basically, we got a whole bunch of new keyword terms for Set 3, which we haven't seen too much of Set 3. We're starting to see some of the cards trickle in. We still haven't got my Vanity card. I haven't been in. I need to actually engage Cryptozoic to see if they're going to send it to me, so maybe I can reveal it on one of these upcoming shows. I couldn't find the photo that it's based on, so maybe I might tweet that out if I get enough interest in that, so you guys can see the photo that the card will be based on, and then maybe we could guess. You guys might guess on what it's going to have on it, or what I was trying to go for with the card. But that will be coming up in Set 3 as well. So I do look forward to seeing that. But also, some of these great abilities. We've got the Morrow Mage. It's a 4-cost troop. That's a 1/3, so kind of a weak body for the cost. It has the keyword ability Shift, and it says, when this deals damage to a champion, draw a card for each damage dealt. So the Shift keyword ability allows you to move the ability to another troop if you want to. So you could take this Shift and throw it on like Eldritch Dreamer, as it says down there, or maybe Menacing Grolk or something like that if you needed to, so it's a much beefier body. That allows you to do that. But having said that, I feel like Morrow Mage is really not one that's going to see a lot of competitive play, at least in Constructed. I mean, I give it like maybe a 2 out of 5 personally. What do you think?
I'm a little nicer. I would, if I had to give it a number, I'd probably go 3 out of 5 just to make it a little closer, because I see there being like that card out there that just, if it gets its ability, it breaks game wide open, like having to do regular damage to your opponent, something, because even at 4 cost, that 1/3 isn't bad. Like, we get Eldritch Dreamer because we guarantee 3 to the face and a card draw off its average build. Well, this is 1/3 and guarantees that you're going to draw a card for each damage, or when it deals damage, draw a card for each damage out. So each damage.
Okay.
So, I mean, if I had to compare those two, in the sense they kind of feel similar, but this one's a little more versatile, but less, and not quite as in a clean package.
You still have to deal damage to the champion, though, so
right.
There's that.
And also, the thing I like about it more, even though you think of this card as a 4-play card, a turn 4 kind of average, I see this as also a late game option. If you draw it in your 8th, 9th, 10th turn, it can blow the game wide open still, even then, because you have that, you might have a board presence still.
Right.
So it's got potential. It's nice that it's got some late game potential while still being decent on turn 4. So that versatility, maybe it's something better. But again,
it feels like a max 2 of, because it's a buff that's a very weak body, and maybe it goes in a control deck or something. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not really seeing it.
Oh,
it's definitely great. It's definitely great if you have that draft pick. I'd probably pick it up in draft. Maybe, but there are probably uncommons I would pick up before I would pick up this guy.
Yeah, I mean, the way people say
some removal or something.
Card advantage.
That's true.
And that is certainly part of it. Right,
so
I think I'd rather have Mirror Knight, let's be honest. But
well, yeah. So another card I've kind of got, a little bit of the hots for is this Night Sky Stargazer, who's a 4-cost 1 wild threshold 3/3. Says Prophecy, when this enters play, the next troop in your deck gets +2/+2. So the way the Prophecy keyword ability works, as far as what it looks like, is it basically works on the next troop down. Now, we're not sure if this is also going to affect like basic actions or quick actions, if maybe they'll affect the next quick action or basic action or something else down on the stack. Right now, it looks like it just affects troops because that's what we're seeing in front of us, but there's a chance that could be another use for Prophecy in the future. So this guy is going to be crazy. They already talk about it's going to be crazy pickup. It's a common card, for all of those draft picks. I mean, this could be, in a lot of cases, this could be a turn or a draft pick 1, especially when you got a stinker rare. Like, I would pick this guy over this guy personally. But you know, there is that. So, you know, any thoughts on that guy?
I like the 3/3 for 4. The ability's good because I mean basically you have 5 casts, but the one time I think is what would make me kind
This is when it enters play, so you could bounce him and do it.
Right.
Do it again.
You certainly be moving him around quite a bit, but again, the one time thing, you're spending the bounces trying to get him in and out just for a 2/2. And in some sense, I'd rather have the Root Dancer than.
What goes on the next troop down? So like it would make this guy like a 3/5. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Right.
But I mean, it's like the one time. It's in the end, all it is a +2/+2. So in some sense, I think I'd still like. I said, rather have the Root Dancer, but it's definitely a good card and very draftable.
Yeah.
Verbally draftable.
Moving on, we've got the Creepy Conspirators, the Fell Root Acorn, and I got super excited, and I was like, this is just overpowered Fell Root Acorn, until I figured out exactly how it works, but we'll get to that. So we've got Allegiance is both the keywords in these, and what this means is you have to have either that troop in play, or it has to be in your hand. So if you play one of these cards, and there isn't a troop in play with that Allegiance, then that's going to definitely give your opponent some information about your hands, but they should probably already know what you're doing to begin with. So I mean, it gives them some information. It makes it easier for them to maybe do something to make you discard cards. But so the one on the Creepy Conspirators is a 5-cost 1 diamond threshold 4/3 necrotic allegiance. So if you have a necrotic in your hand or on the table, when this enters play, you can revert target troops. So typically in diamond we see a lot of reversion. And then we've got the Fell Root Acorn, which is a 1/1 resource all the time. So no matter what, when you drop this, you get 1/1 resources. But if you have an elf in play or in your hand, you also can get either Ruby, Wild, Thresholds, or say you're already good on your Thresholds, you can gain 3 health. So it's really a win-win. It's a great early card, it's a great late game card. It just forces you to deck construct around elves, because otherwise all you get is 1/1 resource and you don't get the Threshold for it. So that could be a little bit problematic. That's the drawback for this card. But this is like the very first dual resource that comes into play unexhausted that we've seen. I mean, I'm super excited to see this stuff coming out. So what do you think about all this craziness?
Acorn, love it. I can't wait to see the other ones. That's really neat. The generic, that's fine. We have a lot of fixing already, so this is like partially fixing, but also at the same time 3 health and stuff like that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you're drawing into these things, and you're like, oh, I have to pick one color, one shard or the other. I don't really need either, so you just randomly click one, whatever. Ability to gain 3 health. I mean, it's
very relevant. Yeah, it's very relevant, especially in the late game. Especially with some of these other things we've seen, where it is that someone all of a sudden, I'm like at 18 health, and then they come through for 20 something damage with a I keep forgetting the name of it now because it's been too long. 2 attack phases and +1 front end for all your guys on the attack.
Yeah, I can't even. But either way,
I can't even think of it. It's
I'm terrible at pulling names quickly off the top of my head.
I should know this. It's been played on me so many times, and I was playing it yesterday actually. And the kids are knocking up against the door because they want to get in here. Anyways, moving on, we've got the Pupil of Creation, which is a 1-cost 1 wild threshold 1/1 troop, and it says when you play this card, a card of cost 5 or greater, add a creation counter to this, and then add +2/+2 to its power and toughness, which is by itself pretty neat. That's a pretty neat ability. It makes it very draftable. It's a legendary card though, so that makes it a little bit tougher. You're not going to see it that much in draft, but it already becomes a pretty good draft card for that. I'm not, if that was all it had, it probably wouldn't be as good and definitely wouldn't be in that legendary range. But after all that, it's an Eye of Creation basically. For 8, you can remove all the creation counters from it, reveal cards from the top of your deck equal to the number of creation counters removed from it this way, play the revealed troops for free, put the remaining cards in your deck. I feel like this card is going to be a lot more fun for PvE where there's less removal, but PvP, there's just too much removal because you're going to be like stacking it, and then someone's going to make you cry, like murdering it or something like that. So, any thoughts there?
Yeah, you read what the card said, and I feel like I read it a little differently. When I read it, it says target player casts Murder, Burn, or something on this by turn 5. Like, that's all I read. I literally look at this and go, this is a 1-cost card my opponent has to deal with at some point. I am going to make him waste a card on it.
But there's something to be said for that. Like, if I can play all the cards on my deck are must deal with, like, eventually my opponent's not going to be able to deal with one of them, right? So, I mean, if I have this on top of Wrathwood Master Moss, on top of, you know, a bunch of other things in Wild that are just must deal with troops where I'm low on the removal, like, that's still good, right? I mean, it just sucks when you top deck too many shards and you don't have the threats out there and they have removal for days. That's the only issue.
Right. Yep, good card, kind of neat. I don't know, unless somebody comes up with some really fantastic, neat use for it. Don't see it being a high value card yet. I'm not saying it'll change in the future, but at the moment, not a high value card for a legendary.
So they know how much people love and hate, what's his name? The Xentoth's Zarlox the Inquisitor, right? It's in the PVE, because he basically makes you discard cards and he puts a 5/5 spider into play, which then kills something at the same time. Meanwhile, you're running out of cards. And let me tell you, I played him as my last and final boss in the arena last night, and it was not pretty. I lost to him twice in a row because he doesn't just put like 2 or 3. I think he usually puts 3 eggs in. I'm pretty sure he had 6 in my deck.
Oh, yeah.
It was ridiculous. So they said, you know what, this is great. People love this. They love this. So why not allow us to let people do this to their opponents? So you've got this Exarch of the Egg, which has lethal, which is something that Blood's starting to get a little bit more of. When this or another Venom, and the Venom, both. So by the way, Venom and Elves are going to pick up. We're going to see a lot more of those in set 3. They're supposed to be pushing both the Spider race and that Elf race. But then, basically, you create 2 of these Spider eggs for each opposing champion. Put them into your opponent's decks. The Spider egg doesn't put a 5/5 into play, but it does put this Spiderling into play, which is unblockable, and you get to void. Put the top card of your deck in the zone. Void this. I don't think it kills anything though. Yeah, so that's the only issue. Like, it would be nice if it actually killed something on top of that. That might make it Sapphire Blood Mill might have actually worked sort of with this setup, but it doesn't look like it actually kills anything. That's not what I'm reading.
Yeah, it's still a neat card. I mean, we can dig into how the texts work in minor ways, whatever. But I think it's still good. 1/3 for 2, great stats right out of the gate. Lethal, nice. Ability, really not bad. Has synergy with a certain deck type. So I mean, cool. I'll take it.
Decimates walls, I guess. I mean, not that we're seeing a lot of walls right now. Next, if you are creative or artistic, you need to throw some flavor text on this Boomsmith and send it over. You have 200 characters you can spend, but you want to send it over to promotions@hextcg.com, and your text could be on this cool Boomsmith. You need to do it sooner than later, so get those creative juices flowing. There's some pretty funny things we could come up with on here, but the flavor text isn't going to change the way it works. It'll just, it'll be your flavor text, and they may even put your name on there, or maybe your handle. Like, my in-game handle is obviously Aaron Squire, because that's who I am everywhere on the internet. But yeah, I mean, there you go. I mean, here's your chance. Like, if you weren't a Kickstarter backer and you don't have cool promos like some of us. This is your chance, your time to shine, to get in there and really put your name on the card game. So I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Maybe like Get to the Chopper or something, like, but it's Arnold Schwarzenegger. So like when you play him, he's like, get to the chopper, get to the chopper, get to the chopper. I'm saying it really badly right now. It's just. On top of that, there's also a Clan Black Blade Pauper tournament, which is going on right now. So if you don't have a huge collection, I encourage you to get out there and sign up for that. I believe it's ongoing after I think there are 2 weeks left right now. There's also a Rock League for another 4 weeks going on. That's another low-end type of thing. You can go ahead and go to the Hex website and check that out. And of course, they talk about the Five Shards Cup tournament we talked about that's going on tomorrow. There's going to be a stress test on the 16th, so luckily they Cryptozoic pays attention to their community, and they didn't schedule the stress test at the same time as the tournament tomorrow, although I don't think it would have made that much of a difference because the stress test is on the test client. I encourage everyone to get out to that. As always, there's going to be a tournament there. There's a chance we probably will crash the servers. That's what we want to do, actually. And they say that there will be some prizes associated with it. So not really too much else to say on there. I don't think you'll... Golden Saucer guy, you probably don't have any throw-ons for that, really. The stress test? Yeah, I mean, it's a stress test. Just want to make sure people know it's out there.
Yeah.
Next one. So here is tonight's update. So we've caught up, right?
All right.
I know, right? So more cards from set 3. Here we've got the Tribal Warfare. It says target troop you control and all troops control that share a trait with it get exhaust this. It deals damage equal to its power to another troop this turn, which is ridiculous. This card is pretty ridiculous in those troop-based decks. You know, obviously, if you aren't getting swept out by extinction, it's really good, and you're troops against troops. You know, when someone drops a Falconeer, it could really decimate a Falconeer board state where it is that there's all these like 1 toughness things, and you just deal the damage. They don't get to deal the damage back to you, so seems pretty sick to have like maybe this as like a one of if you're playing a lot of tokens or that sort of thing in your deck. Also, this, you know, the question on people's minds is probably going to be, what does it mean when it says share a trait? So like Vampire King is undead, Vampire and King. So like all things that are vampires, kings, and undead would get this ability if you targeted Vampire King with it. So seems pretty simple. Golden Saucer guy, a little bit of any throw-ons there?
Great card. I mean, really great card.
You could use it during combat. It's quick action speed. You could on the blocks.
Right.
You could use it after blocks.
Yeah. You could literally, the options for this card are endless. You're using a deck that has some level of trait commonality, and most people's decks have some level of trait commonality between them. So that is just a great card. I don't even like it should cost more if it maybe didn't have that trait ability to be broken, but the trait ability reigns in it and just ever so slightly requires you to have some synergy there. And wow, I'll be happy to play with it. I'm not gonna say it's gonna break the meta wide open or anything crazy like that, but seeing that card pop up is gonna be big.
Mind Rake I think would be a great card to play in some sort of Shin Hair deck where you are actually going Blood, Wild, Shin Hair, so you could ramp up into Mind Rake. You have a bunch of those little battle hoppers and you're like, well, I got 5 battle hoppers, so discard your hand, please.
Right. Yeah.
So that's pretty much how I would try to use Mind Rake. You know,
I was thinking that somewhere maybe robots even.
Spiders would work. Yeah, there's a lot of options on that one. So same thing for each troop you have with a certain trait that for 5 and 1 blood, you can make your opponent discard cards equal to the number of troops that share that trait.
Yeah, I actually started looking at cards the other day when I read that. Started kind of deck brewing a little bit because I wanna make a Bloodbots deck now. Something with a little Mind Rake, little robot action.
Azawa's Dance. This is the first time we've seen a socket on a non-troop card. It says troops in your deck get all the socketed powers of this. So you basically socket this and then give the troops its power at basic action speed, and all of them get it. So you could give all of your troops like spell shield so they couldn't be targeted, or you could give them all like when they deal damage to the opponent you draw a card or something like that. So there's some options there, but at the same time this is the same as the Dream Dance card where it's good, but at a cost of 6 I feel like it's just not going to see competitive play, but it'll probably obviously see more of the limited plays, you know, in draft decks and that sort of thing. It just feels like it's just not going to happen very often for those competitive play decks.
Yeah, I think this card would see play everywhere if it said all troops in your deck and in play get it. But
that would definitely be better.
Turn 6 at the earliest, maybe with some ramp. Like,
yeah, you could turn 4 it, but
yeah, like you can ramp to it to get. But you're spending all that just to get.
And plus, it's stunning you behind a turn because you're not building board state. You're just basically investing in future cards that you hopefully will draw. So that's the other issue with the Dream Dance as before. But it definitely follows in the same flavor of Dream Dance. So here's a confusing card that I was like, this seems really not good at all. Why are they highlighting this? It's 1 and 1 Sapphire.
Right.
It's a 0/1. It says you can exhaust it. Put a troop with costs equal to or less than this troop's cost from your hand in a play, and then put it back into your hand, and then it costs +1, so you can make it put bigger and bigger things in play. And I'm like, well, if I was going to do that, why wouldn't I just play the card? And so it took me a while, but I figured out, well, this just simply means if I have something that's double wild threshold in my deck and I have this guy in play, but I don't have the threshold, as long as I have this guy costing 3, I could put that card into play. Or I could put another card that's like even an enchantment or something like, not an enchantment, but a the other thing. I could put that, you know, some sort of a constant in play or something like that. So,
right. I think my issue comes with the whole, you know, coming into play with troop trauma issue. You're playing it on 1.
yep.
You're activating it to bring a 1 cost in. What are you gaining from this? That's my issue. Like, I don't know the balance.
It feels like another card that wants to be played with wild, kind of. It's like, well, I didn't draw. I drew this guy, and I have a Howling Brave, and I have 1 Sapphire Shard. Well, I guess I play this guy and get set really far back by waiting till the next turn to play a Howling Brave, and at least now I have a wild threshold. I mean, but it seems really bad.
Firehawk mentioned it still gets inspired by CMK. Yeah, Inspire in general. I mean, yeah, you might be able to stack up some Inspires. Sure.
It just feels really slow for what it is. At least it's a rare card. I mean, if this was a legendary, I'd feel really bad for people.
Don't be too. I mean, don't be too dismayed with this. We could see some really neat combo. There could be some other cards that play into this.
If there was something so you could go off maybe infinitely with this if there was a way to put it into play and have it be able to exhaust right away. If you could give it whatever it is, speed somehow every turn that you played it, maybe that would be something, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't really, not seeing it.
Yeah, I'm not sure yet, but hey, we never know what we're going to see, so.
They talk about the stress the test tournament on the stress server next week again, so make sure you're getting out for that till it's gone. This is the 6 alternate art cards are getting, you know, grab them now. They're warning, I guess, that they're saying they'll give you a week's notice before they're gone. I got 4 of them. I got my what do you call them, Buccaneers, but I need to do a lot of grinding. I need to get some gold. Talk about the Clan Blackblade Pauper Tournament, the Rock League, and then there's a bunch of reviews on these different websites. But for the most part, they're going to say, if you've already followed Hex this far and you've been here since the beginning, most of the time, it's nice to go and see what these people say about Hex more than it is you're probably not going to get any new information, because a lot of times they treat it as something new for a new audience that's never seen it before, and so they have to do the whole like round-up explaining of Hex, which is fine. That's what they're trying to do. That's what they're pushing. So, yeah. I think we're ready for the deck doctor, unless you got something to add before we move out of the news segment.
Again, just as a side note, make sure you guys thank the Hex people for being really supportive of like posting the 5 Shard Cup stuff, the Clan Blackblade things, the Rock League. You know, they don't have to support these things. I mean, obviously it helps the game, but they're just super great about being supportive of the community, as they should be, and make sure you thank them for being so supportive. Okay,
so last week I had one comment, or 2 weeks ago I had one comment on the last deck building to Squire, which is from Zmek. Says, great to see me again. I really appreciate that. Looking forward to my vanity card. I am too. If there's any ideas for deck building, he wants to see a PVE orc deck, but I've been playing with this PVE dwarf deck, and I know a lot of people have already kind of built this, so I'm just going to go ahead and show you what I've been building for the dwarf deck. I feel like that's what we want to do tonight, unless you guys want to do orcs. We got about 23 minutes to build this deck, so we're going to try to like speed through this unless anyone has any objections. So let me know soon so I can switch gears. If you really want to see that orc deck, I'll listen to the channel, but otherwise we're going to start building this dwarf deck. We called it PVE Dwarfies, and it actually has the dollar amount right there, which is nice. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and set us up for Sapphire, Ruby, and then Shardless. And we will start looking for the typical dwarfs that we want to have in here. Oh, I need to set up for PvP, or actually we can have both PvP and PvE cards, but there's not a lot of dwarf cards that are PvE that we want.
Right.
I'll just type in dwarf. Okay. So a lot of people are playing Pterobot in here. I'm not too sold on it. I haven't really tried it myself. I've been playing Tectonic Megahulk. I think I'm playing 3 of these right now, but this feels like a card, if you're going to play it, maybe a 2 of. You play it on turn 2, and it gets confusing because it says it reduces its tunneling for each, at the start of your turn, for each dwarf and robot you control. And for some reason, I thought that meant I actually was going to get more counters on it, and it doesn't work that way. This number that's tunneling actually starts reducing itself. That's how it works. So, in case you're wondering, that's how it works.
Right. So to go from if it starts out at what tunneling?
It starts out at 15, tunneling
right,
15.
So,
so if you have one robot in play, it'll be 14 the next turn, and then on and on and on.
5 robots out, it's actually.
It'll go 10, 5, and then it will probably play itself. I went ahead and put one Theorycrafter in there with the typical damage gem, so that way you can create a war bot and you can deal damage that way. It's also one of those things where the AI in the game still doesn't really interpret board states very well, so you can surprise it on the attack and be like, oh, now there's a war bot to block your guy that you didn't take into account before you attacked AI, so there you go. You could play this guy. You really don't have to. He's a 5 cost. It can be difficult to play him. You know, he's a maybe. If you have Reese, you should be playing Reese. I mean, this guy has been like in the format. He started off as that one of in the Gorefeast decks, and people were just like, this guy's amazing, and he really is. So if you're playing this deck either competitively or in PVE, you got to play Reese. I play 3 in my deck, but you know, you could play 2 and you might be okay. Another thing to keep in mind with Reese, because he is unique, if you have Reese underground and you decide for some reason, or let's say you have a Reese in play and you decide to put one underground because you think he's going to die soon, that will kill the one in play, because when they're underground they count as being in play for some reason. I'm not sure who made that decision, but that's the way it works.
Yeah. Therable said that Megahulk is still expensive. Yeah, Megahulk's a little bit pricey still. I mean, it's not Reese the Crustcrawler, but it's not.
It was really cheap until that one deck did crazy good with it. Let's see, what's it doing right now? 6. It was like less than $1 before like someone actually started using it. I remember that.
I mean, don't be that guy that waits because the card is, you know, going down in price or it's hitting rock bottom. I mean, I wish I would have picked it up when they were rock bottom.
This guy I'm playing as a one of because it's really cool to create a worker bot and have your Reese in play, and then basically you get more robots out of Reese this way. As another side note, you do be careful with Reese when you're playing him. There are certain robots like I did try playing him in a blood deck with Extinction, and the robot where when you swing with him he puts 3 cards into play off of the jank bot. I did that and swept out my own board state. So do realize that, like, for instance, with jank bot, you should have a good working knowledge of most of the robots in the game and what's the best way to play them. So I think the best thing about playing this deck is it's an aggro deck, but I still have to make a lot of thoughtful decisions with it.
Right.
All right, let's see. The typical... I'm playing Bertram as my hero because he puts a robot into play. Fisher Smith's another one. If you're playing PvP, if you're going to play, you could put this guy in your reserves, and he's actually working now, so no big problems there. I'm not sure that I would main deck him, though. He doesn't feel like he would really do too much. I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong about that. Electroid's a must 4 of in this deck. This is a staple for the deck. Really easy to get a hold of. Looks like he's going for a whole 2 cents or basically 165 gold. Let's see. We've got the Construction Foreman. This one, and then with that last guy, there's actually equipment for the Electroid. So you can, instead of having to have 4 troops in play, you only have to have 3. So if you have that equipment, that makes him even better for PvE. Construction Foreman, there are choices that you'll have to make with this guy where sometimes you'll want to transform your Electroid into a 3/3 troop on turn 1 if you can with a certain setup, which we'll talk about after we see Forge of Cadoc. So with Forge of Cadoc, you actually have to get rid of a card from your hand in order to play it. So this allows you to play both your Construction Foreman and Electroid, or play this Forge, maybe play Gearsmith, and then take your Construction Foreman and turn Forge of Cadoc into a 3/3 troop, which is a really crazy board state to have. The problem I have is late in the game, or sometimes a lot of other states in the game, board states, I'm like, I really just want to discard a card. So I was playing with 2. You could not play this card at all, as far as I'm concerned, because how often it actually puts you ahead it's more often just a hindrance to you, is what I found by playing it. But you can still play the 1-off, or you could go crazy and play the 3 or 4 that some people do, just to see how often you can get the Construction Foreman Forge of Cadoc to play your guy right away while discarding like your Gearsmith or some other card that you kind of really want. But yeah, there is that. If you want to jump in, Golden Saucer guy, on that one, because I'm sure you have something to say.
No, I definitely agree with all these. With these decks, there's only a handful of good directions to go, so it's really about fiddling with the numbers to make it work, not just for what's best for the deck, but works best with your play style. So in some of these decisions, the numbers you have are going to be more important than just the card selection. The card selection, we're like, hey, this is the better card to pick. And there are a lot of times we know with the better cards, getting a Forge of Cadoc in there is fantastic, but it might not be the right move for you as a player. So play the deck, learn what you like, learn what you want to do, and make sure you have more balance and be objective. So.
Yeah, I agree. Completely agree. Another thing with Forge of Cadoc is I looked at it as ramp, and it does ramp you, and it helps you get into other things and lets me run a lower curve, but at the same time, it just sets me so far behind. I feel like trying to not run it and see how that does for me. Let's see, what else have I got in there? We've got Reese. I feel like I've got some I feel like we're getting close.
Right. The numbers have to be climbed up pretty high here. I don't know what this
So I tried Gore Feast in here as a 2-of, and I didn't like it. It just didn't really do very much. Most of the time I needed bodies, and this is a card that works really well in that 1 or 2 Gore Feast decks, and I wasn't drawing enough cards to really make it happen for me, or having enough stuff in play.
Yeah, and the computer's not very bright sometimes, and it just seems like Gore Feast is good, but a lot of times
you've already won,
or up that 1 attack for swinging in isn't enough to clear a few of their guys. They end up getting some easy kills on you.
Yeah, even when I had like the Forge of Cadoc in play to play it on turn 3, it was like it just didn't feel like I was killing hard enough with it,
Yeah, I mean you play whenever you're playing the card. I mean you're hoping that that's lethal, and getting it out early doesn't equate to lethal. It just chips your opponent down. So you hope that Gore Feast comes out and means that it's lethal.
Yeah, for sure.
Just don't have that.
I'm looking for the burns. I should probably just type it in because I know I have burn. I think I have. I'm trying to remember if I put burn and Crackling Bolt in here, but burn definitely goes in here. I think I just played with a playset of burn because I have dwarves that are searching for artifacts in here. And if you have the equipment for burn, you can make it 3 cost, and a lot of times you can just burn to the face and finish your opponent with this.
Right.
3 damage for 1 has always been pretty crazy in any format. So there is that. Let's go back to our deck here. So we've got 24 cards. I feel like I pushed the limits and maybe went 22 resources. But I'm starting to try to build it a little bit differently too this time. I'm trying to remember what else I had in there. If you guys have any suggestion. Yeah, I know Reese is going to be ridiculously expensive. If you don't have Reese, don't sweat it. That's not really the main point of this deck, but he is ridiculous. And if you're going to play competitively, you have to have him. But if you're going to play just just that other thing, then maybe just play those Crackling Bolts or something. Inductocopterbot's a good option, but I just don't like it. He's such a weak body, and we just really want to smash our opponent's face in better. Getting those charges doesn't do very much with our charge ability. It just kind of gets another dude in play, and especially if we don't have Reese, I can't really see that being something I want,
Yeah.
Let's see. There was other cards. I swear there was other cards. I'm trying to remember them now. We have about 12 minutes to finish up this deck. You could play Buccaneer in here if you don't have a lot of some of these other cards. That's not a bad one. You could play some of the typical Gore Feast type stuff in here, honestly. your Buccaneers, your Mentalist, maybe. Well, probably not Mentalist because it's a buff for troops that cost more expensive than what you're playing. Mentor the Song, maybe as a one of.
Side note, I still really love that Buccaneer alternate art. I need 4 of those.
Okay, here we go. Construction plans. Yeah, you need this. You definitely want your construction plans Warhulk. It's common. It's really inexpensive. You should have it. Shouldn't be any excuses for not having that. Tower Hulk is one you could try in here. I don't know. Maybe it's okay. I've seen someone play it against me in a tournament, and it was kind of scary for a little while. But I can't remember if I had artifact removal or I think I got there first. I can't remember. I remember I won. I have a video of it somewhere. Droo's Relenting Fists, I tried out in the deck. It's okay. Maybe not fit. It may not fit your exact playstyle. The biggest issue with Droo's Relenting Fist is it's going to take your resources every turn unless you want to give it up. But on the other side, you could always turn it into a 3/3 robot. So there is that. So if you have it, you could try it out. It wasn't too bad for me. It's nice because it deals with sweeps well, maybe in a constructed sense. But, it's okay. As like a one of.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I'm looking for the... so you could probably play this guy in here because he is a robot. He's unique. I would maybe play 2 of him if you've got him. He can get you some interesting things like Spell Shield, Flight, Steadfast, Life Drain, Invincible. All those things are good, right? And it's kind of just a fun card to have. He's a 2/2, so he's a solid, bear body there, but, seems pretty good.
Right, yeah.
Trying to think of what else we've got here. Lightning Elemental is another one that I'm playing in a different deck. This isn't a dwarf card, but I found, especially if you have the equipment for this guy, he's ridiculous because as soon as you use your champion power, he becomes a 4/2 with Swift Strike, and every time he deals damage to your opponent, you gain a charge. So if you have this guy and you have the equipment, you might consider running him in your deck. Just because he's not a dwarf, I probably wouldn't run him, but you could try it out, especially if maybe you're not... If you're more Ruby, or maybe you want to go like Mono Ruby for some reason and play Polka instead, you could do that and you could run this guy. That could be a different direction you could go.
Yeah, there's a lot of options here for you to play with, and these options don't drastically change your deck. They'll add some nice flavor, a different look.
Yeah,
Anarchist. Figure out what look works best for you.
Anarchist would be like if you're going to play that other guy, you could probably play Anarchist in here too. I'm trying to find the other guy.
Alternate art Buccaneer, so bad. I'm
lucky I have him. It took me a while to build up the money for him. So this is another one. Construction plans, Hornet bot. I actually, especially in PvE, I love this much more than Forge of Cadoc because the whole point you're playing Forge of Cadoc is so you can have a turn 1 3/3 and then swing through for 4 on turn 2, right? That's the whole point of the card. This card does the same thing because you can, with PvE and the equipment for it, you can make it cost 0. And instead of getting a 2/1 Hornet bot in like 2 or 3 turns, you can get a 3/3 on turn 1 with it by playing it with in conjunction with the other card that we already had, that dwarf that turns things into 3/3s. Seems pretty good. If you've got this card, and especially if you have the equipment, you should be playing it in here.
Right.
Trying to think. I think we're almost there. If we're not there, we're really close to being there. Construction Foreman, that's who I was thinking of. Construction Foreman is like probably one of the biggest cards for this deck. If you don't have this guy, you need this guy to play this deck. That's like, he's probably more important than Reese for this deck. I know, right? If you have him, if you decide to go more Sapphire and get away from Ruby, maybe you could play Ancestors Chosen. It's another nice 1-drop. It, builds up your deck with those nice 2/2s. That sort of thing. Gearsmith's another one you need to have in this deck, but again, if you go that Ruby route, you're not going to have the Gearsmith, so then you can play some other things. It feels bad when this guy whiffs, but he whiffs, I'd say, 2 out of 7 times, maybe 2 out of 8 times, so 1 in 4 times if we did the reduction on that fraction. Of course, we're gonna want our Shards of Innovation here, which is going to give us both shards. The deck runs such a low curve, and we have single threshold on everything that we actually don't need to run Shards of Fate at all in this deck. You're fine without running that. You want to get those resources. You want to get those charges in play. I'm just going to go ahead and throw some shards on there right now while we're looking at them. Anything that I missed that we need to add into the deck, you think?
No, I mean, I think we've covered a lot of it. There's so many fun cards to play with, and I think just about everybody has toyed with a base version of this deck in some form or fashion. So this isn't a stretch for a lot of people to experiment and play with it.
Yeah, I'm just putting in like 20 something shards here just so I can see how many cards we have to work with to see how far we have to whittle this down. And we are right up on time. We got about 7 minutes left in the episode. Do stick around for the giveaways after the episode. So Master Theorycrafter was pretty good, but not really super necessary for the deck. We're actually 5 cards short of having the deck completed. So we'll probably go ahead and just run those Crackling Bolts in here. Crackling Bolt's another one that just gives you more finishing power and removal. I do like this card. Also, we can go ahead and run the Pterobots in here. Pterobots. I actually haven't had too much trouble with flyers in this deck, even though I'm not running Pterobots in my version. Pterobot's another one where we have to build up a board state for it to actually come into play because it costs so much.
Right. I like its defense though. It's a fine blocker to get out. I mean, there's been times where I didn't necessarily need the flyer, but I needed that 5 defense, and it's good in that sense.
So I think we're actually pretty much there on this deck.
Yeah.
So even though these numbers look crazy because it looks like we got 4 or 5 drops. We've only got 20 shards in here though, I think. Yeah, I only have 20 shards, so I actually need to go...
Yeah, but you're mostly on the 2 and 3 cost, right?
Yeah, I think I was running 21 shards just to be safe about it. Crackling Bolts I added late. I'm not sure how... I don't know that I would want to run a ton of Pterobot because, like, if you draw a ton of them in your opening hand, it's like, well, I guess I mulligan, even though I have shards. You know, because if the deck's going to run too slow, you really don't want the deck to run too slowly. So this is another card. Like if you don't have some of these more expensive rare cards like Tectonic Megahulk, Master Theorycrafter, Reese the Crustcrawler, Eurig the Robomancer, although he's pretty cheap right now, or you haven't got this guy yet, or Droo's Relenting Fists, you could run more Pterobots. That's a pretty good answer to that problem. Eurig, I think, you could play a 2 of in here. I don't think I would run more than that because he does build those nice big 5/5 Crush Warhulks. It takes him some time to get there, but he can do that for you, and he's a nice alternative when you don't have some other things. But I don't think I would run more than 2 because you can't tunnel him, so he's another one that's hard to play in this deck. Let's see. I'll probably just get rid of a Crackling Bolt. Crackling Bolt's pretty good. Again, removal, always good. But we want to be super aggressive. We want to be hyper aggressive and play a lot of like 3/3s and just smash face with this deck as fast as possible. Again, Forge of Cadoc, after playing with 2 of them and having 2 just sitting in my hand, it just feels really bad to have this card in the deck. And it's just, I'm considering just pulling it. It's actually... We're running 21 shards. You could almost count this as our 22nd shard. Almost. Yeah, it's like half. Yeah. So, anything else to add on there, you think? Or
no, I mean, it's fine. The Cadoc is, of course, questionable, but it's not bad. It doesn't hurt the deck in any way for having it there.
When it goes off, it feels good, but I haven't had it just win a game outright. You know? Like, I've swung for 7 without it, on turn 3.
I mean, you're running 3 Reese the Crustcrawler, so the deck's good.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, every time you draw Reese and you don't draw, like, a Sapphire resource, like, you're in trouble. So that is one of the other issues with the decks. You want to probably have more Sapphire than Ruby. But, that depends. So let's actually look at what our deck analysis is saying. So we actually have 13 Ruby and 9 Sapphire, so that may make us want to make some more decisions here on where we want to go with some of the cards. We may want to get rid of some of our Ruby cards, basically. Because I want to be able to play like Reese on turn 2. I want to play Reese on turn 2. That's kind of a big deal. So maybe one less Crackling Bolt. Maybe another Pterobot or something. If it's going to load. Apparently I need to reload the page. Reload. What do I think of Ingenious Engineer? I think that he can do some pretty sexy things. mostly for your plans. Maybe if you're running Ingenious Engineer, maybe run the Construction Plans Tower Hulk, because he can do some pretty cool things with that. Or Dross Walker. I think if you're running Ingenious Engineer in this deck, you're going to run a higher curve. You're going to run like a 23, maybe even a 24 shard deck, because you're probably going to run Dross. And I think Ingenious Engineer is 4 cost, if I remember right. He's a 2/4 body, which is nice because he's cheaper. You may even run more Forge of Cadoc so you can ramp up into him more easily. The other big issue with Forge of Cadoc I have to highlight is it doesn't produce Threshold at all. And that is really bad for this game. We need the Threshold early on in the game. And so if we don't have it, it's like, okay, that's great. I'll put myself down a card. I get an extra resource. I'm probably going to just turn this thing into a 3/3 body with Construction Foreman. So this is definitely not a card from another game that's really expensive that produces resources. So take that for what it's worth. Let's see. I was putting that up. I was taking this down. We do have more Ruby cards than Sapphire cards, but I think we're going to make our Ruby and Sapphire much closer. So we'll probably do something like a 9-8 split. Should be okay, but you have to play with these numbers again. We really want to play Gearsmith on turn 1. Playing these a little bit later, most of our Ruby cards is fine. So I think actually, just because I really want to play those Sapphire cards early, I'm probably going to just push it the other way a little bit. Because again, we can play the Burn and the Crackling Bolt a little bit later. The Construction Foreman early is really important, but I think it's a little bit more important for me to turn 1 Gearsmith or turn 2 Reese. Those are the two most important cards for me. If you don't have those cards, obviously that's going to push you in a different direction on your shards, but so do keep that in mind. It's a really low shard count because we actually are basically a 1-2 deck. Most of, like, all these cards up here, we're always going to bury Reese for 2. Our 5-drop is this Master Theorycrafter, which isn't really necessary for the deck. We could probably just play more Pterobot. The Pterobot itself is hopefully going to cost 3 because we'll just have that many robots in a play. Tectonic Megahulk costs 2 because we're basically always going to tunnel him. So, I mean, like the most expensive card in this deck is actually Master Theorycrafter followed by Eurig the Robomancer, and that's why those are one-ofs in here because they're late game for us.
Right.
So that's why we can get away with such a low curve, and that means we're drawing more threats, which is nice for a deck like this. That's why this deck did so well. Of course, there was a little bit more focus when it played in PvP, and I actually have a game. The last time I played a tournament, I believe, when I actually went a full 8 rounds, where my opponent was playing this deck, and he should have won the game. If he was a little bit more aggressive, he would have won the game. He just didn't play it properly. So the deck is, for how expensive it is, looks like this specific one's $100, but that's probably because Reese is 20. So 3 Reese is $60 of that.
Yeah.
So I mean, remove Reese and you're doing a lot better, you know, for the cost of this deck. You know, and like a lot of the other things also. Master Theorycrafter you don't really need.
Yeah.
Droo's Relenting Fist you really don't need.
This, I mean, you can drop the cost down fast if you really want.
Yeah, just get rid of. If you got rid of all the rares, the deck would still stand really well, even without, and especially without Forge. Forge is $341. Yeah, that's pretty well priced, I'd say, for considering that it felt like it was going to be something, and then it just kind of didn't really deliver.
Right.
As far as like when we were previewing set 2 a long time ago. So yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and close out the episode, and we'll do the giveaways right after, so stick around for those. So tonight on Deck Build with the Squire, really appreciate everyone for showing up and sticking around. And we talked about the tournaments that are going on tomorrow, so make sure you're getting out, supporting all the streamers. I know Golden Saucer Guy's going to be getting out there. I'll probably try to dip into some streams. I was going to try to see if I could do some shoutcasting, but I think they're pretty set on that, so maybe I might get in there, but probably not. We did some of the news. We got a lot of exciting new Set 3 stuff coming out that is going to be just great, awesome abilities. We got the Shift ability, the Prophecy, and the Allegiance ability coming out in Set 3. And then we did this deck doctor for dwarves, and next week I promise we will do a PVE deck doctor specifically for orcs. I remembered it a little bit too late, and I was kind of excited to get this one out the door, especially because I know people are going to be grinding, and so hopefully this should help people out and get them that gold that they need so they can get those really cool promos. So that's pretty much what we did tonight. Golden Saucer Guy, do you have anything to add on before we close it out?
No, get out there and don't be like me. Go get that gold. Farm those cards. I haven't done it. I need to do it. So.
All right. Until next time, this is Darren Squire signing off, saying God bless you and your families. Try not to rage too much out there.